Good morning. We don't get it this calm very often. Hardly a breeze so far today. It's 6 a.m. on July the 25th, I believe it is. We've been having some hot weather like a lot of other places on Earth has, or in the Northern Hemisphere I should say. So I'm up early this morning to do some work before I have to go in and hide from the heat. Yesterday it topped out at 34.6 degrees with the humidex was 38. The day before it was a degree cooler but more humid, so the humidex topped out at 40 Celsius. Today I'm going to do a bunch of tasks here first thing in this morning and record some clips and let you see how the garden is going. The strawberries are called ever bearing. They start to bear in late June. When the weather gets hot, they will stop bearing, and then when it cools off again, they will start up again, and then they'll bear pretty much till frost. What I'm going to do now is just see if there's any to pick. Now it'll probably be the last picking until the weather cools down again. I did pick quite a few. I don't remember how many I picked. Of course it'll be on my final tally in the fall. But I pretty much just froze them and ate them as frozen treats. So that's all I got now. Like I said, that's the last picking until the weather cools down. You remember when I was planting potatoes back in the spring, I said I probably regret planting the potatoes in bed just as the bed was. And you can see the difference in growth. Now, whether or not what the potatoes are actually like under here, of course you don't know until you actually dig it, but according to the top growth, you can see the vast difference between the two beds. It's the same variety of potatoes from the same batch. Corn, tassels on the corn are growing just fine. And the silks come out. I did take a picture, as far as I know, of when I first seen the silks. This was a few days ago now. And a couple of the silks, they're gone. And it looks like the ear is starting to swell up. There's one there. And there's another one over there. And another one down here. This is the first of the silks to produce. There are some silks that are still just coming out fresh, so that's nice. I must have gotten some dill seed in the compost because there's 2 dill plants coming up among the carrots. Carrots are growing beautifully. I did check them yesterday and I seen some tops that were about this big around. Now here's something new. I checked this yesterday and it wasn't there. So this is the first open flower on and it's a female. When I looked in there, I'm like, that looks female. So I have to see if I can find a male flower now to pollinate that flower. That's exciting. I think that's the first female flower of the vegetable marrow. I was thinking about harvesting the chamomile, but of course there's heavy dew on it, and I did run the sprinkler last night. When you're harvesting flowers, and especially to dry, you gotta wait till they're actually dry there, so when the sun comes up and everything dries out, and all those petals that's turned back now, a lot of them will straighten out again, and I will come out and harvest the chamomile flowers. Garlic is, the leaves are starting to die back. See this one? It's just the first leaf yet. That one, if you count that little bit down there, it's the second leaf is starting to go. So another week or so, the garlic will be ready to harvest. Tips up here is probably just because of the heat. And I still missed the scape. I did notice some of these onions are starting to bulb up. Not very much, of course. It is only July 25th. But you see, that one's bulbing. This is the red spring, of course. Flower buds are starting on the red rooted amaranth. Probably going to get quite a big flower bud on that this year. So now normally, red rooted amaranth, it's a native plant, which means of course it can be a weed, but it grows really small in competition with everything else. And you do a little bit of cultivating and you can see how well it grows. Now I tried this, the spinach I have is fading there again, but you look at the large leaves on this. So you can pick a leaf I'll just heat it like that. It's quite similar to spinach. The older the leaf gets, now that they're starting to actually put on a flower bud, there's a bit of bitterness, and it's getting a little bit more bitter. So the younger leaves and the younger the plant, the better. But as you can see, very tall up. Once they get along so far, you can actually pick nice clean leaves, and they're not really that well eaten. And if you pick them at this stage now, like I said, that's a little bit bitter, but if you put on a sweet salad dressing on it, then you wouldn't even notice the bitterness. In here I have several turnip to harvest. So I'm going to go through now and see what there is to harvest. I'll put you out just right there. The hens hear me, and the rooster consistently likes to remind me that they're around. I'm going to feed the tops to the hens. Small one, but maybe due to the weather as well. I have a split in this one. So I'm going to take them in, thinking about pickling these. That's it, but I had to pick those. I have 2 tomato plants that's not doing too well. I am wondering if you see where I got the holes in the bottom. My idea was that I would have it so that it leaves a little bit of water in the bottom and then it creates an extra reservoir. And what I'm thinking is that maybe the root ball is pretty much down on the bottom of the bucket and the roots are getting drowned before it is producing roots further up. They will survive if that's the case. They are probably putting on roots now, and they'll start to take off. The other 2 new ones are doing just fine, and all of these. Now I haven't noticed any fruit set yet, even though there's flowers coming. And now I'm going to turn on that sprinkler since I'm out of the way of getting sprinkled. I'm going to do my first raspberry harvest today. It won't be a whole lot, but it'll be some raspberries. As you can see, the patch is getting into quite a mess, but the only thing I'm going to be doing right now is put on some protection and pull up some of these stinging nettles, because you see this is aspen. And that's the issue, that aspen don't last very long at all in the weather. And I'm going to wait until I get the chance to actually get good material. The base of the stuff is down, and I'll just persuade it back into where I want it to go, right? I won't be able to get in and get a lot of those berries, but I didn't get in there last year because remember the bird's nest was there and I didn't get to put the post back. I'll get plenty of raspberries out of it this year, even though the framing is in a mess. Three cucumbers I counted on this, you see? It's growing. 1, 2, and 3. These garden huckleberry, they're starting to actually liven up. I wonder if I'll get anything from them. I mean, I have, what do we got, like 2.5 months? And then there's that one over there. This one has put on that's the 3rd male flower now. No sign of female flowers yet. My last setting of potatoes. Almost. Let me look over now while I'm talking to you here. It looks like I might have one missing right here. The rest of them are up. This is St. John's wort. I picked the St. John's wort flowers around the yard a couple of times. You just pick the flower like that and dry that out for your tea, but you can use the entire plant for tea if you want. Oh, I tried it. Eat a St. John's wort flower raw. It just doesn't really go very well. Look at the size of this thing. I'm 5'10" if for scale. And the flowers is up there. I checked among the beets. Some of the cylinder I know is enlarging. I think there was a couple of bull's blood. None of them are big enough to pick yet, but top growth is doing fine. Every potato bed, except for that one that I didn't trust to start with, and I'm missing 3 or 4 patches here, 3 or 4 sets. They're all doing perfect. You see, I'm going to have to bring out some slug repellent. So I tell you what, I don't not having a big problem with the cabbage moth. I'm going to be real quiet, and you tell me if you can hear it. Can you hear that hum? It's almost like you would hear a busy freeway off in the distance. That's what it sounds like to me. That's paper wasp. They feed the caterpillar larvae to their young. I found 2 cabbage moth on that plant, but it's actually the slugs that are eating through from the underside of that plant. And even the slugs, it seems, don't attack the red cabbage as much, and they're probably over on this leaf by crawling from the green one, and they crawled over onto the red Falstaff cauliflower, I believe it is. Coming along is pretty tight. I don't know if I got them too tight. Maybe next year I'll spread them out and put like lettuce around them or something. See, little baby Brussels sprouts are starting to form there. Down on this one. We have one more turnip to get right there. This is like sugar beet, and then there's some butternut squash plants there. The butternut squash plants have not flowered yet. Among the rutabaga, they're spread out nicely. I was checking in among there are some starting to swell up, so these should do well. Rutabaga, they usually outgrow any damage done on the leaves like that. I don't worry about it having the leaves anyway. I'm just going to give the leaves to the hens. But once again, the slugs are back, so maybe I'm going to sprinkle some iron pellets around. So now I showed you the red rooted amaranth. This is Love Lies Bleeding, and so now the flowers are all opening, you see. They're just opening. They're small plants, but now what'll happen is that they'll set seed, and I'll have volunteers here. I don't know how much seed I'm going to have collected, but especially the volunteers, the best of them is what will sprout early next spring, and they will grow better, and it'll continue on like that. All I have to do is cultivate around them and give them the opportunity to reach their potential, and they will get better and better every year. The pond, you see, when I have to run the sprinkler, there's not much outflow from the well, so the pond is sinking low. You can see there's the top pipe that the water flows through and goes out, and then it will go down through the garden hose I have connected there. But I had COVID last week, and after a couple initial days of really bad symptoms, I came out and I attempted to start to build the dam, and I got those 2 pieces of concrete down in there, and that was all I could muster. And the water had started to back up, even with that hose attached. So the water was seeping out. It had actually covered that hose. I don't know if you can see the dirt on the hose there. But now that I'm running the sprinkler, the water that was there is seeped away into the surrounding ground. As you might have guessed, I haven't been paying much attention to the front fence. And so of course the peas are stunted. They haven't gotten a whole lot of water, but there's pods coming on. I'm going to harvest some more. I did harvest, it was 390 grams I believe it was, a couple of days ago, and I'm going to pick some here this morning to bring to my uncle. He really loves those. Petals off the rose bush are falling. This thing was even more loaded in roses than what it is now. And last but not least, the potatoes I planted along here. I did get out and early one morning, and I used up the power in the lawnmower batteries. And before the power ran out, I got this much done. I've got these mulched wrong. As you can see, the potatoes are growing wonderfully. And I got up to here. Potatoes are still growing good there. And from a couple of pokes up here, I did put a little bit right there. So today, hot or no, I'm going to mow some of the meadow enough to get enough clippings to mulch the rest of it. Now, speaking of the paper wasp, they put a nest right there. I don't mind. I'm just gonna, but I can't. I can't be reaching in there to get. Look here, a sleeping bee. Anyway, as I was saying, I don't mind. Those European paper wasp, they are about as docile as bumblebees. They don't sting. Now they can and live to tell about it. So if you hit their nest, of course, they might sting you. They'll only sting if they feel threatened. The only thing I don't like about them is that if you're out about among the flowers and you're sweating in it, they like to come and check you out, and they'll fly right up around your face. And it's like, get away! But apart from that, I've let them land on my hand and crawl all around, and I could size them up then, right? And so that's how I know I could key them out and see exactly what species they were. But yeah, so they're quite fine there. It's just that, like I say, I can't do any real work right under there. Sun is up a bit now. There's still some red on the horizon. Wonder how that will show up on the camera. Boy, is it humid. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is what the bay looks like on a flat calm day. Now, it's not that we get very many of those. Wonder what happens if I just zoom out here. In the Bay of Islands, you see, there's lots of hills poking up out of the water as you go out the bay. And then it's just a little town around the cove. That's the church over there. Hope you enjoyed the video, found it interesting. Hit the like button and be sure to leave a comment. I always love to read comments from my viewers. And I'll see you in the next video.